William Jefferson Clinton, born August 19, 1946, is an American politician who served as the 42nd President of the United States from 1993 to 2001. Prior to the presidency, he was the governor of Arkansas from 1979 to 1981, and again from 1983 to 1992. A member of the Democratic Party, Clinton was ideologically a New Democrat, and many of his policies reflected a centrist third-way political philosophy. Clinton was born and raised in Arkansas and attended Georgetown University, the University of Oxford, and Yale Law School. He met Hillary Rodham at Yale and married her in 1975. After graduating from Yale, Clinton returned to Arkansas and won election as the Attorney General of Arkansas, serving from 1977 to 1979. As governor of Arkansas, Clinton overhauled the state's education system and served as chairman of the National Governors Association. Clinton was elected president in 1992, defeating incumbent Republican opponent George H. W. Bush. At age 46, he became the third youngest president and the first from the baby boomer generation. Clinton presided over the longest period of peacetime economic expansion in American history and signed into law the North American Free Trade Agreement, but failed to pass his plan for national health care reform. In the 1994 elections, the Republican Party won unified control of the Congress for the first time in 40 years. In 1996, Clinton became the first Democrat since Franklin D. Roosevelt to be elected to a second full term. Clinton passed welfare reform and the state children's health insurance program, as well as financial deregulation measures, including the Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act and the Commodity Futures Modernization Act of 2000. In 1998, Clinton was impeached by the House of Representatives for perjury and obstruction of justice, relating to a sex scandal involving White House employee Monica Lewinsky. Clinton was acquitted by the Senate in 1999 and proceeded to complete his term in office. Clinton is only the second U.S. president to ever be impeached. During the last 3 years of Clinton's presidency, the Congressional Budget Office reported a budget surplus, the first such surplus since 1969. In foreign policy, Clinton ordered U.S. military intervention in the Bosnian and Kosovo wars, signed the Iraq Liberation Act in opposition to Saddam Hussein, participated in the 2000 Camp David summit to advance the Israeli-Palestinian peace process, and assisted the Northern Ireland peace process. Clinton left office with the highest end-of-office approval rating of any U.S. president since World War II, and he has continually received high ratings in public opinion polls of U.S. presidents. Since leaving office, Clinton has been involved in public speaking and humanitarian work. He created the William J. Clinton Foundation to address international causes, such as the prevention of AIDS and global warming. He has remained active in politics by campaigning for Democratic candidates, including his wife's presidential campaigns and Barack Obama's presidential campaigns. In 2004, Clinton published his autobiography, My Life. In 2009, Clinton was named the United Nations Special Envoy to Haiti, and after the 2010 Haiti earthquake, he teamed with George W. Bush to form the Clinton-Bush Haiti Fund. Early life and career. Clinton was born William Jefferson Blythe III on August 19, 1946, at Julia Chester Hospital in Hope, Arkansas. He was the son of William Jefferson Blythe Jr., 1918–1946, a traveling salesman who had died in an automobile accident 3 months before his birth, and Virginia Dell Cassidy, later Virginia Kelly, 1923–1994. His parents had married on September 4, 1943, but this union later proved to be bigamous, as Blythe was still married to his third wife. Soon after Bill was born, Virginia traveled to New Orleans to study nursing. She left her son in Hope with her parents Eldridge and Edith Cassidy, who owned and ran a small grocery store. At a time when the southern United States was racially segregated, Clinton's grandparents sold goods on credit to people of all races. In 1950, Bill's mother returned from nursing school and married Roger Clinton Sr., who owned an automobile dealership in Hot Springs, Arkansas, with his brother and Earl T. Ricks. The family moved to Hot Springs in 1950. Although he immediately assumed use of his stepfather's surname, it was not until Clinton turned 15 that he formally adopted the surname Clinton as a gesture toward his stepfather. Clinton said that he remembered his stepfather as a gambler and an alcoholic who regularly abused his mother and half-brother, Roger Clinton Jr., to the point where he intervened multiple times with the threat of violence to protect them. In Hot Springs, Clinton attended St. John's Catholic Elementary School, Ramble Elementary School, and Hot Springs High School, where he was an active student leader, avid reader, and musician. Clinton was in the chorus and played the tenor saxophone, winning first chair in the state band's saxophone section. He briefly considered dedicating his life to music, but as he noted in his autobiography My Life, "Sometime in my 16th year, I decided I wanted to be in public life as an elected official. I loved music and thought I could be very good, but I knew I would never be John Coltrane or Stan Getz. I was interested in medicine and thought I could be a fine doctor, but I knew I would never be Michael DeBakey. But I knew I could be great in public service." Clinton began an interest in law at Hot Springs High, when he took up the challenge to argue the defense of the ancient Roman senator Catiline in a mock trial in his Latin class. After a vigorous defense that made use of his budding rhetorical and political skills, he told the Latin teacher Elizabeth Buck that it made him realize that someday he would study law. Clinton has identified two influential moments in his life, both occurring in 1963, that contributed to his decision to become a public figure. One was his visit as a Boys Nation senator to the White House to meet President John F. Kennedy. The other was watching Martin Luther King Jr.'s 1963 I Have a Dream speech on TV, which impressed him enough that he later memorized it. College and law school years. Georgetown University. With the aid of scholarships, Clinton attended the School of Foreign Service at Georgetown University in Washington, D.C., receiving a Bachelor of Science in Foreign Service degree in 1968. In 1964 and 1965, Clinton won elections for class president. From 1964 to 1967, he was an intern and then a clerk in the office of Arkansas Senator J. William Fulbright. While in college, he became a brother of co-ed service fraternity Alpha Phi Omega and was elected to Phi Beta Kappa. Clinton was also a member of the Order of Demolay, a youth group affiliated with Freemasonry, but he never became a Freemason. He is a member of Kappa Kappa Psi honorary band fraternity. Oxford. Upon graduating from Georgetown in 1968, Clinton won a Rhodes Scholarship to University College in Oxford, England, where he initially read for a Bachelor's of Philosophy in Philosophy, Politics, and Economics but transferred to a Bachelor's of Literature in Politics and, ultimately, a Bachelor's of Philosophy in Politics. Clinton did not expect the second year because of the draft and he switched programs. This type of activity was common among other Rhodes Scholars from his cohort. He had received an offer to study at Yale Law School, Yale University, but he left early to return to the United States and did not receive a degree from Oxford. During his time at Oxford, Clinton befriended fellow American Rhodes Scholar Frank Aller. In 1969, Aller received a draft letter that mandated deployment to the Vietnam War. Aller's 1971 suicide had an influential impact on Clinton. British writer and feminist Sarah Maitland said of Clinton, "I remember Bill and Frank Aller taking me to a pub in Walton Street in the summer term of 1969 and talking to me about the Vietnam War. I knew nothing about it, and when Frank began to describe the napalming of civilians I began to cry. Bill said that feeling bad wasn't good enough. That was the first time I encountered the idea that liberal sensitivities weren't enough and you had to do something about such things. He also developed an interest in rugby union, which he played at Oxford. While Clinton was president in 1994, he received an honorary degree and a fellowship from the University of Oxford, specifically for being a doughty and tireless champion of the cause of world peace, having a powerful collaborator in his wife, and for winning general applause for his achievement of resolving the gridlock that prevented an agreed budget. Vietnam War opposition and draft controversy. While at Oxford, Clinton also participated in Vietnam War protests and organized an October 1969 moratorium to end the war in Vietnam event. During the Vietnam War, Clinton received educational draft deferments while he was in England in 1968 and 1969. He was planning to attend law school in the US and was aware that he might lose his draft deferment. Clinton tried unsuccessfully to obtain positions in the National Guard or Air Force, and he then made arrangements to join the Reserve Officers Training Corps (ROTC) program at the University of Arkansas. He subsequently decided not to join the ROTC, saying in a letter to the officer in charge of the program that he opposed the war, but did not think it was honorable to use ROTC, National Guard, or Reserve service to avoid serving in Vietnam. He further stated that because he opposed the war, he would not volunteer to serve in uniform, but would subject himself to the draft, and would serve if selected only as a way to maintain my political viability within the system. Clinton registered for the draft and received a high number, 311, meaning that those whose birthdays had been drawn as numbers 1 to 310 would have to be drafted before him, making it unlikely that he would be drafted. In fact, the highest number drafted was 195. Colonel Eugene Holmes, the Army officer who had been involved with Clinton's ROTC application, suspected that Clinton attempted to manipulate the situation to avoid the draft and avoid serving in uniform. He issued a notarized statement during the 1992 presidential campaign. I was informed by the draft board that it was of interest to Senator Fulbright's office that Bill Clinton, a Rhodes Scholar, should be admitted to the ROTC program. I believe that he purposely deceived me, using the possibility of joining the ROTC as a ploy to work with the draft board to delay his induction and get a new draft classification. During the 1992 campaign, it was revealed that Clinton's uncle had attempted to secure him a position in the Navy Reserve, which would have prevented him from being deployed to Vietnam. This effort was unsuccessful, and Clinton said in 1992 that he had been unaware of it until then. Although legal, Clinton's actions with respect to the draft and deciding whether to serve in the military were criticized during his first presidential campaign by conservatives and some Vietnam veterans, some of whom charged that he had used Fulbright's influence to avoid military service. Clinton's 1992 campaign manager, James Carville, successfully argued that Clinton's letter in which he declined to join the ROTC should be made public, insisting that voters, many of whom had also opposed the Vietnam War, would understand and appreciate his position. Law School. After Oxford, Clinton attended Yale Law School and earned a Juris Doctor, J.D., degree in 1973. In 1971, he met fellow law student Hillary Rodham in the Yale Law Library. She was a class year ahead of him. They began dating and were soon inseparable. After only about a month, Clinton postponed his plans to be a coordinator for the George McGovern campaign for the 1972 United States presidential election in order to move in with her in California. Clinton eventually moved to Texas with Rodham in 1972 to take a job leading McGovern's effort there. He spent considerable time in Dallas, at the campaign's local headquarters on Lemon Avenue, where he had an office. Clinton worked with future two-term mayor of Dallas Ron Kirk, future governor of Texas Ann Richards, and then unknown television director, and future filmmaker, Steven Spielberg. Bill married Hillary on October 11, 1975, and their only child, Chelsea, was born on February 27, 1980. Early political career. Governor of Arkansas, 1979–1981, 1983–1992. After graduating from Yale Law School, Clinton returned to Arkansas and became a law professor at the University of Arkansas. In 1974, he ran for the House of Representatives. Running in a conservative district against incumbent Republican John Paul Hammerschmidt, Clinton's campaign was bolstered by the anti-Republican and anti-incumbent mood resulting from the Watergate scandal. Hammerschmidt, who had received 77% of the vote in 1972, defeated Clinton by only a 52% to 48% margin. In 1976, Clinton ran for Arkansas Attorney General. With only minor opposition in the primary and no opposition at all in the general election, Clinton was elected. Clinton was elected governor of Arkansas in 1978, having defeated the Republican candidate Lynn Lowe, a farmer from Texarkana. At age 32, he became the youngest governor in the country. Due to his youthful appearance, Clinton was often called the boy governor. He worked on educational reform and directed the maintenance of Arkansas's roads, with wife Hillary leading a successful committee on urban health care reform. However, his term included an unpopular motor vehicle tax and citizens' anger over the escape of Cuban refugees, from the Mariel boat lift, detained in Fort Chaffee in 1980. Monroe Schwarzlos of Kingsland in Cleveland County, polled 31% of the vote against Clinton in the Democratic gubernatorial primary of 1980. Some suggested Schwarzlos's unexpected voter turnout foreshadowed Clinton's defeat by Republican challenger Frank D. White in the general election that year. As Clinton once joked, he was the youngest ex-governor in the nation's history. Clinton joined friend Bruce Lindsay's Little Rock law firm of Wright, Lindsay, and Jennings. In 1982, he was elected governor a second time and kept the office for 10 years. Effective with the 1986 election, Arkansas had changed its gubernatorial term of office from 2 to 4 years. During his term, he helped transform Arkansas's economy and improved the state's educational system. For senior citizens, he removed the sales tax from medications and increased the home property tax exemption. He became a leading figure among the New Democrats, a group of Democrats who advocated welfare reform, smaller government, and other policies not supported by liberals. Formally organized as the Democratic Leadership Council, DLC, the New Democrats argued that in light of President Ronald Reagan's landslide victory in 1984, the Democratic Party needed to adopt a more centrist political stance in order to succeed at the national level. Clinton delivered the Democratic response to Reagan's 1985 State of the Union address and served American Samoa chair of the National Governors Association from 1986 to 1987, bringing him to an audience beyond Arkansas. In the early 1980s, Clinton made reform of the Arkansas education system a top priority of his gubernatorial administration. The Arkansas Education Standards Committee was chaired by Clinton's wife Hillary Rodham Clinton, who was also an attorney as well as the chair of the Legal Services Corporation. The committee transformed Arkansas's education system. Proposed reforms included more spending for schools, supported by a sales tax increase, better opportunities for gifted children, vocational education, higher teachers' salaries, more course variety, and compulsory teacher competency exams. The reforms passed in September 1983 after Clinton called a special legislative session the longest in Arkansas history. Many have considered this the greatest achievement of the Clinton governorship. He defeated 4 Republican candidates for governor: Lowe, 1978, White, 1982 and 1986, Jonesboro businessmen Woody Freeman, 1984, and Sheffield Nelson of Little Rock, 1990. Also in the 1980s, the Clintons' personal and business affairs included transactions that became the basis of the Whitewater controversy investigation, which later dogged his presidential administration. After extensive investigation over several years, no indictments were made against the Clintons related to the years in Arkansas. According to some sources, Clinton was a death penalty opponent in his early years, but he eventually switched positions. During Clinton's term, Arkansas performed its first executions since 1964. The death penalty had been reenacted on March 23, 1973. As governor, he oversaw 4 executions, 1 by electric chair and 3 by lethal injection. Later, as president, Clinton was the first president to pardon a death row inmate since the federal death penalty was reinstated in 1988. 1988 Democratic presidential primaries. In 1987, the media speculated that Clinton would enter the presidential race after incumbent New York Governor Mario Cuomo declined to run and Democratic frontrunner Gary Hart withdrew owing to revelations of marital infidelity. Clinton decided to remain as Arkansas governor, following consideration for the potential candidacy of Hillary Rodham Clinton for governor, initially favored but ultimately vetoed by the First Lady. For the nomination, Clinton endorsed Massachusetts Governor Michael Dukakis. He gave the nationally televised opening night address at the 1988 Democratic National Convention, but his speech, which was 33 minutes long and twice as long as it was expected to be, was criticized for being too long and poorly delivered. Clinton presented himself as both a moderate and a member of the New Democrat wing of the Democratic Party, and he headed the Moderate Democratic Leadership Council in 1990 and 1991. Presidency, 1993–2001. During his presidency, Clinton advocated for a wide variety of legislation and programs, most of which were enacted into law or implemented by the executive branch. His policies, particularly the North American Free Trade Agreement and welfare reform, have been attributed to a centrist third-way philosophy of governance. His policy of fiscal conservatism helped to reduce deficits on budgetary matters. Clinton presided over the longest period of peacetime economic expansion in American history. The Congressional Budget Office reported budget surpluses of $69 billion in 1998, $126 billion in 1999, and $236 billion in 2000, during the last 3 years of Clinton's presidency. Over the years of the recorded surplus, the gross national debt rose each year. At the end of the fiscal year, September 30, for each of the years a surplus was recorded, the U.S. Treasury reported a gross debt of $5.413 trillion in 1997, $5.526 trillion in 1998, $5.656 trillion in 1999, and $5.674 trillion in 2000. Over the same period, the Office of Management and Budget reported an end-of-year, December 31, gross debt of $5.369 trillion in 1997, $5.478 trillion in 1998, $5.606 in 1999, and $5.629 trillion in 2000. At the end of his presidency, the Clintons moved to Chappaqua, New York in order to satisfy a residency requirement for his wife to win election as a U.S. Senator from New York. 1992 Presidential Campaign. In the first primary contest, the Iowa caucus, Clinton finished a distant third to Iowa Senator Tom Harkin. During the campaign for the New Hampshire primary, reports surfaced that Clinton had engaged in an extramarital affair with Jennifer Flowers. Clinton fell far behind former Massachusetts Senator Paul Tsongas in the New Hampshire polls. Following Super Bowl XXVI, Clinton and his wife Hillary went on 60 Minutes to rebuff the charges. Their television appearance was a calculated risk, but Clinton regained several delegates. He finished second to Tsongas in the New Hampshire primary, but after trailing badly in the polls and coming within single digits of winning, the media viewed it as a victory. News outlets labeled him the comeback kid for earning a firm second-place finish. Winning the big prizes of Florida and Texas and many of the southern primaries on Super Tuesday gave Clinton a sizable delegate lead. However, former California Governor Jerry Brown was scoring victories and Clinton had yet to win a significant contest outside his native South. With no major southern state remaining, Clinton targeted New York, which had many delegates. He scored a resounding victory in New York City, shedding his image as a regional candidate. Having been transformed into the consensus candidate, he secured the Democratic Party nomination, finishing with a victory in Jerry Brown's home state of California. During the campaign, questions of conflict of interest regarding state business and the politically powerful Rose law firm, at which Hillary Rodham Clinton was a partner, arose. Clinton argued the questions were moot because all transactions with the state had been deducted before determining Hillary's firm pay. Further concern arose when Bill Clinton announced that, with Hillary, voters would be getting 2 presidents for the price of 1. Clinton was still the governor of Arkansas while campaigning for U.S. president, and he returned to his home state to see that Ricky Ray Rector would be executed. After killing a police officer and a civilian, Rector shot himself in the head, leading to what his lawyers said was a state where he could still talk but did not understand the idea of death. According to both Arkansas state law and federal law, a seriously mentally impaired inmate cannot be executed. The courts disagreed with the allegation of grave mental impairment and allowed the execution. Clinton's return to Arkansas for the execution was framed in a New York Times article as a possible political move to counter soft-on-crime accusations. Bush's approval ratings were around 80% during the Gulf War, and he was described as unbeatable. When Bush compromised with Democrats to try to lower federal deficits, he reneged on his promise not to raise taxes, which hurt his approval rating. Clinton repeatedly condemned Bush for making a promise he failed to keep. By election time, the economy was souring and Bush saw his approval rating plummet to just slightly over 40%. Finally, conservatives were previously united by anti-communism, but with the end of the Cold War, the party lacked a uniting issue. When Pat Buchanan and Pat Robertson addressed Christian themes at the Republican National Convention with Bush criticizing Democrats for omitting God from their platform, many moderates were alienated. Clinton then pointed to his moderate, New Democrat record as governor of Arkansas, though some on the more liberal side of the party remained suspicious. Many Democrats who had supported Ronald Reagan and Bush in previous elections switched their support to Clinton. Clinton and his running mate, Al Gore, toured the country during the final weeks of the campaign, shoring up support and pledging a new beginning. Clinton won the 1992 presidential election, 370 electoral votes, against Republican incumbent George H. W. Bush, 168 electoral votes, and billionaire populist Ross Perot, 0 electoral votes, who ran as an independent on a platform that focused on domestic issues. Bush's steep decline in public approval was a significant part of Clinton's success. Clinton's victory in the election ended 12 years of Republican rule of the White House and 20 of the previous 24 years. The election gave Democrats full control of the United States Congress, the first time one party controlled both the executive and legislative branches since Democrats held the 96th United States Congress during the presidency of Jimmy Carter. First term, 1993–1997. Clinton was inaugurated as the 42nd President of the United States on January 20, 1993. Less than a month after taking office, he signed the Family and Medical Leave Act of 1993, which required large employers to allow employees to take unpaid leave for pregnancy or a serious medical condition. This action had bipartisan support, and was popular with the public. 2 days after taking office, on January 22, 1993, the 20th anniversary of the U.S. Supreme Court decision in Roe v. Wade, Clinton reversed restrictions on domestic and international family planning programs that had been imposed by Reagan and Bush. Clinton said that abortion should be kept safe, legal, and rare, a slogan that had been suggested by University of California, San Diego political scientist Samuel L. Popkin, and first used by Clinton in December 1991, while campaigning. During the 8 years of the Clinton administration, the U.S. abortion rate declined by about 18.4%. On February 15, 1993, Clinton made his first address to the nation, announcing his plan to raise taxes to close a budget deficit. 2 days later, in a nationally televised address to a joint session of Congress, Clinton unveiled his economic plan. The plan focused on reducing the deficit rather than on cutting taxes for the middle class, which had been high on his campaign agenda. Clinton's advisers pressured him to raise taxes, based on the theory that a smaller federal budget deficit would reduce bond interest rates. On May 19, 1993, Clinton fired 7 employees of the White House Travel Office, causing the White House Travel Office controversy, even though the Travel Office staff served at the pleasure of the president and could be dismissed without cause. The White House responded to the controversy by claiming that the firings were done in response to financial improprieties that had been revealed by a brief FBI investigation. Critics contended that the firings had been done to allow friends of the Clintons to take over the travel business, and the involvement of the FBI was unwarranted. In August, Clinton signed the Omnibus Budget Reconciliation Act of 1993, which passed Congress without a Republican vote. It cut taxes for 15 million low-income families, made tax cuts available to 90% of small businesses, and raised taxes on the wealthiest 1.2% of taxpayers. Additionally, it mandated that the budget be balanced over a number of years through the implementation of spending restraints. On September 22, 1993, Clinton made a major speech to Congress regarding a health care reform plan, the program aimed at achieving universal coverage through a national health care plan. This was one of the most prominent items on Clinton's legislative agenda and resulted from a task force headed by Hillary Clinton. The plan was well received in political circles, but it was eventually doomed by well-organized lobby opposition from conservatives, the American Medical Association, and the health insurance industry. However, Clinton biographer John F. Harris stated that the program failed because of a lack of coordination within the White House. Despite the Democratic majority in Congress, the effort to create a national health care system ultimately died when compromise legislation by George J. Mitchell failed to gain a majority of support in August 1994. The failure of the bill was the first major legislative defeat of the Clinton administration. In November 1993, David Hale, the source of criminal allegations against Bill Clinton in the Whitewater controversy, alleged that while he was governor of Arkansas, Clinton pressured him to provide an illegal $300,000 loan to Susan McDougal, the Clintons' partner in the Whitewater land deal. A U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission investigation resulted in convictions against the McDougals for their role in the Whitewater project, but the Clintons themselves were never charged, and Clinton maintains his and his wife's innocence in the affair. On November 30, 1993, Clinton signed into law the Brady Bill, which mandated federal background checks on people who purchase firearms in the United States. The law also imposed a 5-day waiting period on purchases, until the NICS system was implemented in 1998. He also expanded the Earned Income Tax Credit, a subsidy for low-income workers. In December of the same year, allegations by Arkansas State Troopers Larry Patterson and Roger Perry were first reported by David Brock in the American Spectator. In the affair later known as Troopergate, the officers alleged that they arranged sexual liaisons for Clinton back when he was governor of Arkansas. The story mentioned a woman named Paula, a reference to Paula Jones. Brock later apologized to Clinton, saying the article was politically motivated bad journalism, and that the troopers were greedy and had slimy motives. That month, Clinton implemented a Department of Defense directive known as Don't Ask, Don't Tell, which allowed gay men and women to serve in the armed services provided they kept their sexual preferences a secret. The act forbade the military from inquiring about an individual's sexual orientation. The policy was developed as a compromise after Clinton's proposal to allow gays to serve openly in the military met staunch opposition from prominent congressional Republicans and Democrats, including Senators John McCain, RAZ, and Sam Nunn, DGA. According to David Mixner, Clinton's support for the compromise led to a heated dispute with Vice President Al Gore, who felt that the president should lift the ban, even though was sure to be overridden by the Congress. Some gay rights advocates criticized Clinton for not going far enough and accused him of making his campaign. Military and foreign events. Many military events occurred during Clinton's presidency. The Battle of Mogadishu occurred in Somalia in 1993. During the operation, 2 U.S. helicopters were shot down by rocket-propelled grenade attacks to their tail rotors, trapping soldiers behind enemy lines. This resulted in an urban battle that killed 18 American soldiers, wounded 73 others, and 1 was taken prisoner. There were many more Somali casualties. Some of the American bodies were dragged through the streets, a spectacle broadcast on television news programs. In response, U.S. forces were withdrawn from Somalia and later conflicts were approached with fewer soldiers on the ground. In 1995, U.S. and NATO aircraft attacked Bosnian Serb targets to halt attacks on UN safe zones and to pressure them into a peace accord. Clinton deployed U.S. peacekeepers to Bosnia in late 1995, to uphold the subsequent Dayton Agreement. In 1992, before his presidency, Clinton proposed sending a peace envoy to Northern Ireland, but this was dropped to avoid tensions with the UK government. In 1994, Clinton angered London by granting a visa to Gary Adams, leader of Sinn Féin, the IRA's political arm. In November 1995, Clinton became the first U.S. president to visit Northern Ireland, seeing both the divided communities of Belfast and later famously handshaking Adams, 14 months into an IRA ceasefire during the Troubles. Despite Unionist criticism, Clinton used this as a way to negotiate an end to the violent conflict with London, Dublin, the paramilitaries, and the other groups. Clinton went on to play a key role in the peace talks, which eventually led to the Good Friday Agreement in 1998. In February 1996, the Clinton administration agreed to pay Iran $131.8 million in settlement to discontinue a case brought by Iran in 1989 against the U.S. in the International Court of Justice after the shooting down of Iran Air Flight 655 by the U.S. Navy guided missile cruiser. Capturing Osama bin Laden had been an objective of the U.S. government during the presidency of Bill Clinton, and continued to be until bin Laden's death in 2011. Despite claims by Mansour Ijaz and Sudanese officials that the Sudanese government had offered to arrest and extradite bin Laden and that U.S. authorities rejected each offer, the 9/11 Commission report stated that we have not found any reliable evidence to support the Sudanese claim. In response to a 1996 State Department warning about bin Laden and the 1998 bombings of U.S. embassies in East Africa by al-Qaeda, which killed 224 people, including 12 Americans, Clinton ordered several military missions to capture or kill bin Laden, both of which were unsuccessful. In August 1998, Clinton ordered cruise missile strikes on terrorist targets in Afghanistan and Sudan, targeting the Al-Shifa pharmaceutical factory in Sudan, which was suspected of assisting bin Laden in making chemical weapons, and bin Laden's terrorist training camps in Afghanistan. To stop the ethnic cleansing and genocide of Albanians by anti-guerrilla military units in the former Federal Republic of Yugoslavia's province of Kosovo, Clinton authorized the use of U.S. armed forces in a NATO bombing campaign against Yugoslavia in 1999, named Operation Allied Force. General Wesley Clark was Supreme Allied Commander of NATO and oversaw the mission. With United Nations Security Council Resolution 1244, the bombing campaign ended on June 10, 1999. The resolution placed Kosovo under UN administration and authorized a peacekeeping force to be deployed to the region. NATO announced that its forces had suffered 0 combat deaths, and 2 deaths from an Apache helicopter crash. Opinions in the popular press criticized pre-war genocide statements by the Clinton administration as greatly exaggerated. In 2001, the UN supervised Supreme Court of Kosovo ruled that genocide did not take place, but recognized a systematic campaign of terror, including murders, rapes, arsons, and severe maltreatments. The term ethnic cleansing was used as an alternative to genocide to denote not just ethnically motivated murder but also displacement, though critics charge there is no difference. Slobodan Milosevic, the president of Yugoslavia at the time of the atrocities, was eventually brought to trial before the International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia in The Hague on charges of crimes against humanity, genocide, and war crimes. Milosevic died in 2006, before the completion of the trial. In Clinton's 1998 State of the Union address, he warned Congress that Iraqi dictator Saddam Hussein was building an arsenal of chemical, biological and nuclear weapons. Saddam Hussein has spent the better part of this decade, and much of his nation's wealth, not on providing for the Iraqi people, but on developing nuclear, chemical, and biological weapons and the missiles to deliver them. The United Nations weapons inspectors have done a truly remarkable job, finding and destroying more of Iraq's arsenal than was destroyed during the entire Gulf War. Now, Saddam Hussein wants to stop them from completing their mission. I know I speak for everyone in this chamber, Republicans and Democrats, when I say to Saddam Hussein, you cannot defy the will of the world, and when I say to him, you have used weapons of mass destruction before, we are determined to deny you the capacity to use them again. Seeking to weaken Hussein's grip on power, Clinton signed the Iraq Liberation Act of 1998 into law on October 31, 1998, which instituted a policy of regime change against Iraq, though it explicitly stated it did not provide for direct intervention on the part of American military forces. The administration then launched a 4-day bombing campaign named Operation Desert Fox, lasting from December 16 to 19, 1998. At the end of this operation, Clinton announced that so long as Saddam remains in power, he will remain a threat to his people, his region, and the world. With our allies, we must pursue a strategy to contain him and to constrain his weapons of mass destruction program, while working toward the day Iraq has a government willing to live at peace with its people and with its neighbors. American and British aircraft in the Iraq no-fly zones attacked hostile Iraqi air defenses 166 times in 1999 and 78 times in 2000. Clinton's November 2000 visit to Vietnam was the first by a U.S. president since the end of the Vietnam War. On October 10, 2000, Clinton signed into law the U.S. China Relations Act of 2000, which granted permanent normal trade relations, PNTR, trade status to People's Republic of China. The president asserted that free trade would gradually open China to democratic reform. Clinton also oversaw a boom of the U.S. economy. Under Clinton, the United States had a projected federal budget surplus for the first time since 1969. After initial successes such as the Oslo Accords of the early 1990s, which also led to the Israel-Jordan Peace Treaty in 1994 and the Wye River Memorandum Indiana October 1998, Clinton attempted an effort to end the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. He brought Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak and Palestinian Authority Chairman Yasser Arafat together at Camp David for the Camp David Summit in July 2000, which lasted 14 days. Following the failures of the peace talks, Clinton stated Arafat missed the opportunity to facilitate a just and lasting peace. In his autobiography, Clinton blames Arafat for the collapse of the summit. Following another attempt in December 2000 at Bolling Air Force Base, in which the president offered the Clinton parameters, the situation broke down completely after the end of the Taba summit and with the start of the Second Intifada. Judicial appointments. Clinton appointed 2 justices to the Supreme Court, Ruth Bader Ginsburg in 1993 and Stephen Breyer in 1994. Along with his 2 Supreme Court appointments, Clinton appointed 66 judges to the United States Courts of Appeals and 305 judges to the United States District Courts. His 373 judicial appointments are the second most in American history behind those of Ronald Reagan. Clinton also experienced a number of judicial appointment controversies, as 69 nominees to federal judgeships did not receive a vote in the Republican-controlled Senate Judiciary Committee. In all, 84% of his nominees were confirmed. Sonia Sotomayor was one of the judges who Clinton appointed to the Court of Appeals. She was nominated by Clinton in 1997 to the Second Circuit. Sotomayor was confirmed in 1998, following a delay of more than a year that was caused by Republican opposition. Clinton was the first president in history to appoint more women and minority judges than white male judges to the federal courts. In his 8 years in office, 11.6% of Clinton's Court of Appeals nominees and 17.4% of his district court nominees were black, 32.8% of his Court of Appeals nominees and 28.5% of his district court nominees were women. Clinton appointed the first African American judges to the Fourth Circuit, Roger Gregory, and the Seventh Circuit, Anne Claire Williams. Clinton also appointed the nation's first openly gay or lesbian federal judge when he named Deborah Batts to the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of New York. Batts was confirmed by the Senate in a voice vote in 1994. Public opinion. Throughout Clinton's first term, his job approval rating fluctuated in the 40s and 50s. In his second term, his rating consistently ranged from the high 50s to the high 60s. After his impeachment proceedings in 1998 and 1999, Clinton's rating reached its highest point. According to a CBS News/New York Times poll, Clinton left office with an approval rating of 68%, which matched those of Ronald Reagan and Franklin D. Roosevelt as the highest ratings for departing presidents in the modern era. Clinton's average Gallup poll approval rating for his last quarter in office was 61%, the highest final quarter rating any president has received for 50 years. 47% of the respondents identified themselves as being Clinton supporters. As he was leaving office, a CNN/USA Today/Gallup poll revealed that 45% of Americans said they would miss him, 55% thought he would have something worthwhile to contribute and should remain active in public life, 68% thought he would be remembered more for his involvement in personal scandal than for his accomplishments, and 58% answered no to the question, "Do you generally think Bill Clinton is honest and trustworthy?" The same percentage said he would be remembered as either outstanding or above average as a president, while 22% said he would be remembered as below average or poor. ABC News characterized public consensus on Clinton as, "You can't trust him, he's got weak morals and ethics and he's done a heck of a good job." In May 2006, a CNN poll comparing Clinton's job performance with that of his successor, George W. Bush, found that a strong majority of respondents said Clinton outperformed Bush in 6 different areas questioned. Gallup polls in 2007 and 2011 showed that Clinton was regarded by 13% of Americans as the greatest president in U.S. history. In 2014, 18% of respondents in a Quinnipiac University Polling Institute poll of American voters regarded Clinton as the best president since World War II, making him the 3rd most popular among post-war presidents, behind John F. Kennedy and Ronald Reagan. The same poll showed that just 3% of American voters regarded Clinton as the worst president since World War II. A 2015 poll by The Washington Post asked 162 scholars of the American Political Science Association to rank all the U.S. presidents in order of greatness. According to their findings, Clinton ranked 8th overall, with a rating of 70%. Public image. As the first baby boomer president, Clinton was the first chief executive since Calvin Coolidge, who was not alive during World War II. Authors Martin Walker and Bob Woodward stated that Clinton's innovative use of soundbite-ready dialogue, personal charisma, and public perception-oriented campaigning were a major factor in his high public approval ratings. When Clinton played the saxophone on the Arsenio Hall show, he was described by some religious conservatives as the MTV president. Opponents sometimes referred to him as Slick Willie, a nickname which was first applied to him in 1980 by Pine Bluff commercial journalist Paul Greenberg. Greenberg believed that Clinton was abandoning the progressive policies of previous Arkansas governors such as Winthrop Rockefeller, Dale Bumpers, and David Pryor. The claim Slick Willie would last throughout his presidency. Standing at a height of 6 feet 2 in, 1.88 m, Clinton is tied with 5 others as the 4th tallest president in the nation's history. His folksy manner led him to be nicknamed Bubba, especially in the South. Since 2000, he has frequently been referred to as the Big Dog or Big Dog. His prominent role in campaigning for President Obama during the 2012 presidential election and his widely publicized speech at the 2012 Democratic National Convention, where he officially nominated Obama and criticized Republican nominee Mitt Romney and Republican policies in detail, earned him the nickname Explainer-in-Chief. Clinton drew strong support from the African American community and insisted that the improvement of race relations would be a major theme of his presidency. In 1998, Nobel laureate Toni Morrison called Clinton the first black president, saying, "Clinton displays almost every trope of blackness: single-parent household, born poor, working class, saxophone playing, McDonald's and junk food-loving boy from Arkansas." Morrison noted that Clinton's sex life was scrutinized more than his career accomplishments, and she compared this to the stereotyping and double standards that blacks typically endure. Many viewed this comparison as unfair and disparaging to both Clinton and the African American community at large. Clinton, a Baptist, has been open about his faith. Shortly after Clinton took office, Richard Mellon Scaife, a conservative newspaper owner, organized a fundraising campaign to smear Clinton's image in the media. Leading the Arkansas Project, Scaife and other associates sought to find sources in Clinton's home state of Arkansas who would be willing to dish out negative allegations against the president. Sexual misconduct allegations. In 1994, Paula Jones initiated a sexual harassment lawsuit against Clinton, claiming that he made unwanted advances towards her in 1991. Clinton denied the allegations. In April 1998, the case was initially dismissed by Judge Susan Weber Wright on the grounds that it lacked legal merit. Jones appealed Weber Wright's ruling, and her suit gained traction following Clinton's admission to having an affair with Monica Lewinsky in August 1998. In 1998, lawyers for Paula Jones released court documents that alleged a pattern of sexual harassment by Clinton when he was governor of Arkansas. Robert S. Bennett, Clinton's main lawyer for the case, called the filing a pack of lies and an organized campaign to smear the President of the United States funded by Clinton's political enemies. Clinton later agreed to an out-of-court settlement and paid Jones $850,000. Bennett said that the president made the settlement only so he could end the lawsuit for good and move on with his life. During the deposition for the Jones lawsuit, which was held at the White House, Clinton denied having sexual relations with Monica Lewinsky, a denial that became the basis for an impeachment charge of perjury. In 1992, Jennifer Flowers stated that she had a relationship with Clinton that began in 1980. Flowers at first denied that she had an affair with Clinton, but later changed her story. After Clinton at first denied having a relationship with Flowers on 60 Minutes, he later admitted that he had a sexual encounter with Flowers. In 1998, Kathleen Willey alleged that Clinton groped her in a hallway in 1993. An independent counsel determined Willey gave false information to the FBI, inconsistent with sworn testimony related to the Jones allegation. On March 19, 1998, Julie Hyatt Steele, a friend of Willey, released an affidavit, accusing the former White House aide of asking her to lie to corroborate Ms. Wiley's account of being sexually groped by Clinton in the Oval Office. An attempt by Kenneth Starr to prosecute Steele for making false statements and obstructing justice ended in a mistrial, and Starr declined to seek a retrial after Steele sought an investigation against the former independent counsel for prosecutorial misconduct. Linda Tripp's grand jury testimony also differed from Wiley's claims regarding inappropriate sexual advances. Also in 1998, Juanita Broaddrick alleged that Clinton had raped her in the spring of 1978, although she stated she did not remember the exact date. In another 1998 event, Elizabeth Grayson recanted a 6-year-old denial and stated she had a one-night stand with Clinton in 1982. Grayson later apologized to Hillary Clinton. Throughout the year, however, Grayson eluded a subpoena from Kenneth Starr to testify her claim in court. Post-presidency, 2001–present. Bill Clinton continues to be active in public life, giving speeches, fundraising, and founding charitable organizations. Clinton has spoken in prime time at every Democratic National Convention since 1988. Robert Reich has suggested that Clinton is in a state of permanent election, due to the impeachment proceedings during his presidency and his continuing support in the campaigns of his wife Hillary Clinton. Activities until 2008 campaign. In 2002, Clinton warned that preemptive military action against Iraq would have unwelcome consequences, and later claimed to have opposed the Iraq War from the start, though some dispute this. In 2005, Clinton criticized the Bush administration for its handling of emissions control, while speaking at the United Nations Climate Change Conference in Montreal. The William J. Clinton Presidential Center and Park in Little Rock, Arkansas was dedicated in 2004. Clinton released a best-selling autobiography, My Life, in 2004. In 2007, he released Giving, How Each of Us Can Change the World, which also became a New York Times bestseller and garnered positive reviews. In the aftermath of the 2004 Asian tsunami, UN Secretary-General Kofi Annan appointed Clinton to head a relief effort. After Hurricane Katrina, Clinton joined with fellow former President George H.W. Bush to establish the Bush-Clinton Tsunami Fund in January 2005, and the Bush-Clinton-Katrina Fund in October of that year. As part of the tsunami effort, these two ex-presidents appeared in a Super Bowl XXXIX pre-game show, and traveled to the affected areas. They also spoke together at the funeral of Boris Yeltsin in April 2007. Based on his philanthropic worldview, Clinton created the William J. Clinton Foundation to address issues of global importance. This foundation includes the Clinton Foundation HIV and AIDS Initiative, CHI, which strives to combat that disease, and has worked with the Australian government toward that end. The Clinton Global Initiative, CGI, begun by the Clinton Foundation in 2005, attempts to address world problems such as global public health, poverty alleviation, and religious and ethnic conflict. In 2005, Clinton announced through his foundation an agreement with manufacturers to stop selling sugared drinks in schools. Clinton's foundation joined with the Large Cities Climate Leadership Group in 2006 to improve cooperation among those cities, and he met with foreign leaders to promote this initiative. The foundation has received donations from a number of governments all over the world, including Asia and the Middle East. In 2008, Foundation Director Inder Singh announced deals to reduce the price of anti-malaria drugs by 30% in developing nations. Clinton also spoke in favor of California Proposition 87 on alternative energy, which was voted down. 2008 Presidential Election. During the 2008 Democratic presidential primary campaign, Clinton vigorously advocated on behalf of his wife, Hillary Clinton. Through speaking engagements and fundraisers, he was able to raise $10 million toward her campaign. Some worried that as an ex-president, he was too active on the trail, too negative to Clinton rival Barack Obama, and alienating his supporters at home and abroad. Many were especially critical of him following his remarks in the South Carolina primary, which Obama won. Later in the 2008 primaries, there was some infighting between Bill and Hillary's staffs, especially in Pennsylvania. Considering Bill's remarks, many thought that he could not rally Hillary supporters behind Obama after Obama won the primary. Such remarks lead to apprehension that the party would be split to the detriment of Obama's election. Fears were allayed August 27, 2008, when Clinton enthusiastically endorsed Obama at the 2008 Democratic National Convention, saying that all his experience as president assures him that Obama is ready to lead. After Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign was over, Bill Clinton continued to raise funds to help pay off her campaign debt. After the 2008 election. In 2009, Clinton traveled to North Korea on behalf of 2 American journalists imprisoned there. Una Lee and Laura Ling had been imprisoned for illegally entering the country from China. Jimmy Carter had made a similar visit in 1994. After Clinton met with North Korean leader Kim Jong-il, Kim issued a pardon. Since then, Clinton has been assigned a number of other diplomatic missions. He was named United Nations Special Envoy to Haiti in 2009. In response to the 2010 Haiti earthquake, U.S. President Barack Obama announced that Clinton and George W. Bush would coordinate efforts to raise funds for Haiti's recovery. Clinton continues to visit Haiti to witness the inauguration of refugee villages, and to raise funds for victims of the earthquake. In 2010, Clinton announced support of, and delivered the keynote address for, the inauguration of NTR, Ireland's first environmental foundation. At the 2012 Democratic National Convention, Clinton gave a widely praised speech nominating Barack Obama. 2016 presidential election. During the 2016 presidential election, Clinton again encouraged voters to support Hillary Clinton, including a campaign stop in Wilmington, NC. In a series of tweets, then-President-elect Donald Trump criticized his ability to get people out to vote. After the 2016 election. On September 7, 2017, Clinton partnered with former Presidents Jimmy Carter, George H.W. Bush, George W. Bush, and Barack Obama to work with One America Appeal to help the victims of Hurricane Harvey and Hurricane Irma in the Gulf Coast and Texas communities. Post-presidential health concerns. In September 2004, Clinton underwent quadruple bypass surgery. In March 2005, he again underwent surgery, this time for a partially collapsed lung. On February 11, 2010, he was rushed to New York Presbyterian Hospital in Manhattan after complaining of chest pains, and he had 2 coronary stents implanted in his heart. After this procedure, Clinton adopted the plant-based Whole Foods, vegan, diet, which had been recommended by Drs. Dean Ornish and Caldwell Esselstyn. Wealth. The Clintons accrued several $1 million in legal fees during his presidency. The bills were paid off 4 years after he left office. Bill and Hillary Clinton have both received millions of dollars in book authorship fees. In 2016, Forbes reported Bill and Hillary Clinton made about $240 million in the 15 years from January 2001 to December 2015, mostly from paid speeches, business consulting and book writing. Also in 2016, CNN reported the Clintons combined to receive more than $153 million in paid speeches from 2001 until spring 2015. In May 2015, The Hill reported that Bill and Hillary Clinton have made more than $25 million in speaking fees since the start of 2014, and that Hillary Clinton also made $5 million or more from her book, Hard Choices, during the same time period. In July 2014, The Wall Street Journal reported that at the end of 2012, the Clintons were worth between $5 million and $25.5 million, and that in 2012, the last year they were required to disclose the information, the Clintons made between $16 and $17 million, mostly from speaking fees earned by the former president. Clinton earned more than $104 million from paid speeches between 2001 and 2012. In June 2014, ABC News and The Washington Post reported that Bill Clinton has made more than $100 million giving paid speeches since leaving public office, and in 2008, The New York Times reported that the Clintons' income tax returns show they have made $109 million in the 8 years from January 1, 2000 to December 31, 2007, including almost $92 million from his speaking and book writing. Bill Clinton has given dozens of paid speeches each year since leaving office in 2001, mostly to corporations and philanthropic groups in North America and Europe. He often earned $100,000 to $300,000 per speech. Hillary Clinton said that she and Bill came out of the White House financially broke and in debt, especially due to large legal fees incurred during their years in the White House. "We had no money when we got there, and we struggled to, piece together the resources for mortgages, for houses, for Chelsea's education." She added, "Bill has worked really hard, we had to pay off all our debts, he had to make double the money because of, obviously, taxes, and then pay off the debts, and get us houses, and take care of family members." Honors and recognition. Various colleges and universities have awarded Clinton honorary degrees, including Doctorate of Law degrees and Doctor of Humane Letters degrees. He is an honorary Fellow of University College, Oxford, which he attended as a Rhodes Scholar, although he did not complete his studies there. Schools have been named for Clinton, and statues have been built to pay him homage. U.S. states where he has been honored include Missouri, Arkansas, Kentucky, and New York. He was presented with the Medal for Distinguished Public Service by Secretary of Defense William Cohen in 2001. The Clinton Presidential Center was opened in Little Rock, Arkansas in his honor on December 5, 2001. He has been honored in various other ways, in countries that include the Czech Republic, Papua New Guinea, Germany, and Kosovo. The Republic of Kosovo, in gratitude for his help during the Kosovo War, renamed a major street in the capital city of Pristina as Bill Clinton Boulevard and added a monumental Clinton statue. Clinton was selected as Time's Man of the Year in 1992, and again in 1998, along with Ken Starr. From a poll conducted of the American people in December 1999, Clinton was among 18 included in Gallup's list of widely admired people of the 20th century. He was honored with a Grammy Award for Best Spoken Word Album for Children, a J. William Fulbright Prize for International Understanding, a TED Prize, named for the confluence of technology, entertainment, and design, and was named as an honorary GLAAD Media Award recipient for his work as an advocate for the LGBT community. In 2011, President Michel Martelly of Haiti awarded Clinton with the National Order of Honor and Merit to the rank of Grand Cross for his various initiatives in Haiti and especially his high contribution to the reconstruction of the country after the earthquake of January 12, 2010. Clinton declared at the ceremony that in the United States of America, "I really don't believe former American presidents need awards anymore, but I am very honored by this one. I love Haiti, and I believe in its promise." U.S. President Barack Obama awarded Clinton the Presidential Medal of Freedom on November 20, 2013.
Please subscribe and thanks for watching.